6 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me, pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You call the roll, please.
Here.
Barshef.
Here.
Duel.
Here.
Augustinelli.
Here.
McCumber.
Here.
McManus.
Here.
And it's noted that Corn is absent and excused.
So the first order of business is to elect a chair.
I nominate Steve Duell.
I accept.
We need a second and a
I support it.
support. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Okay.
I don't think you need that, but
Not till the end, I guess. First part of business is public comment. Do we have anybody that wants to do any public comment? Please come forward to the podium. Seeing no takers, we'll close public comment. Go to.
Oh, Jesus. Sorry.
It's all right.
What the heck did happen just there?
We'll move to review and approval of the agenda and conflicts of interest. Any conflicts of interest?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
We have a motion and support. It's just a roll call. It's a overall vote, right? Okay, that's what, trying to get used to this again. When you do it from the other side, it's a little bit different. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The consent calendar.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with in one board motion without discussion. Any member of the board, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such request will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted in parentheses on the agenda is approved by a single board action adopting the consent calendar. Minutes, May 9th, 2023, regular meeting, recommend approval. Bills from the general fund, $127,124.74, recommend approval. Investment policy annual review, recommend approval. And motion to introduce and set public hearing for June 13th, 2023 for the Hickory Properties rezoning, recommend approval.
Does anybody from the board want to remove anything from the consent calendar? Anybody, staff? Anybody from the public? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the consent calendar.
Support.
We have a motion in support. All those in favor say
No,
Nope.
roll
call
Roll
vote,
call.
please.
See, I knew I was gonna screw this up. Roll call vote, please.
Augustinelli,
Yes.
Schmuckel,
Yes.
McCumber,
yes.
Barshef,
Yes.
McManus,
Yes.
Duel.
Yes. Motion passes. Items removed from the consent calendar, we have none. Correspondence, looks like we have a letter that was submitted from Grand Traverse County Road Commission explaining the Record Ego article regarding the roadkills. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so we will move on from there to reports. First one, MMR.
Nobody's here.
They're not here, so they have their report listed and printed there. Next one up, Grand Traverse County Commissioners.
Good evening, everyone. Brad Jewett, Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners, District 4.
Lawrence, District 2?
I don't have a whole lot to report on tonight, but I do have just a few things here. Tomorrow, we are going to have a study session in regards to strategic planning. That is from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with possibly an hour lunch break in between and everything. So we will be taking input from various people, but especially county employees and everything. They'll have the afternoon time to talk to us about the strategic plan and what their vision is for things. I don't know if Lauren reported on it last time because I was not here, but Northern Lakes Community Mental Health, we do have an enabling agreement signed amongst all the counties. Okay, I guess I should have asked you first. 2 weeks ago, I was down to a conference in Grand Rapids, the Great Lakes Homeland Security Conference. And at that conference, there was a lot of big things taken away from it, but number one thing is our emergency manager here, Greg Bird, was awarded Emergency Manager of the Year. That was the first time it's happened to a person in northern Michigan, but first time for a civilian. It's always gone to some form of law enforcement officer, retired usually and stuff like that. So that was a really good recognition there and everything. So coming up here at the end of June, we do have a per diem ad hoc, June 26th to be specific. And I think the time was 10 o'clock. I don't remember. I think it was 10 o'clock that start time was, but I'll have to look at that and let you guys know. And then a couple things I wanted to highlight. It seems like sometimes our local news media likes to portray things as quite negative for us. But, you know, since 2019, we've done a lot of positive things at the county, and especially during 2021 and 22 term there. But one, we've upgraded our whole entire computer system. We used to have the old AS400. It was 50 years old and just was failing at times and hard to maintain and everything like that. We've given employees, on top of their contracts and everything, negotiated about a 15% raise. The pension that we bonded here a couple years ago, we're saving taxpayers, we won't know the exact final number, but somewhere between $10 and $13 million by bonding when we did and everything. So that was a really good move. We've updated a lot of policies and procedures, and right now, currently, our county is in probably the best financial position it's ever been. You know, so I mean, part of that is because of good times, but a lot of that is because of the fiscal decisions that we've made. But yet, we've also improved a lot of services. We've helped bring our employees up to, you know, hourly rates where they should be, or salary rates and everything. So there's a lot of good things going on at the county. I have a whole list at home. That's just the tip of the iceberg of things that we've done and accomplished. So irregardless of what gets read in the paper sometimes, we're doing a lot of good things down there. So I just wanted to make a comment on that. And that's all I have for tonight. I'll let Commissioner Flynn go ahead and update on what she's got.
He covered a lot of things I wanted to talk about, but the Wednesday after I spoke to you last, we also had a study session on the opioid funding spending. Chris Forsythe gave us a really great presentation and brought great community members together to help us see what down the road, what priorities we're going to need to put forth to make sure that we spend that correctly and for the best purpose. So that was really helpful, and I think we're going to be doing it again soon. I think we're having another one.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
So-
I didn't know. I don't know what you guys discussed because I was gone. But
yeah, I
I
forgot.
do remember Chris saying that we're gonna have
Yeah,
another one too.
it was good, yeah.
Okay.
So,
And one thing we have in the works right now, we'll have the results September, maybe. It looks like about September is our facilities master plan stuff. So we're looking at obviously a facilities master plan, what we got to do in the future with our facilities. If things are adequate the way they are, or if we need to change things, if we need to condense things or whatever. So as that report unfolds, we'll keep you updated on that too. Any questions or comments?
I got just a quick one. I don't use the Epic GT system, I think is what they call it, for the permit process.
Yeah.
That is cumbersome as can be.
I hear both.
Oh my God. I think if
Both
you
for-
do it all
both
the time, it's
opinions.
easier, but I had to log in and go under my permit and print off my approved drawings to take to the site to drop off. It took me 40 minutes to figure out how to log in. It is not friendly, and you can Google log into Epic GT county codes or different ways, and it just does not take you there. So I still struggle with that system. Just so you
Well,
guys
forgetting
are
your
aware.
username and password is not our problem.
My password's fine. Once I got to where it said log in, I'm like, woohoo, all right, username, password, and then it went, you know, current permits, and I was like, all right, I got there, but
Yeah, you're
man,
talking
oh,
about
man.
Intergov.
What's that?
Intergov.
Energov, is that what it is? Energov, yeah.
You know, we've heard a lot of good. We've heard negative on it too. I think part of it is we need to do a better education on it.
Training.
I think it's good from what I've seen and what I've heard, but we also know that there's going to be a learning curve for consumers like you or anybody else and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm glad to hear that because we need to take input and give feedback on what we're hearing and everything, and seeing what we can do to improve that.
Yeah,
I have
Laney.
a question on that also. Is it ever gonna be able to talk to our BSNA because they want our building department to use it, but they're having to duplicate everything?
Yeah, they're looking, according to Cliff, they're looking into a way to where BSNA and this will merge and stuff to make
So
it easier.
BSNA is a proprietary
Yeah, but there's.
program. Can they get into that with their?
There's talks on, they think they can help them, not merge, communicate together to where it can be easier, so. There again, a lot of it's still unfolding and everything, And, starting out, we only had a couple townships on board with, I guess, being the guinea pig, so to say, and everything, but they're liking it right now. Yes, they've had to learn some stuff, and yes, they've had some problems with it.
I've heard negative from the other townships that are using it.
Yeah, and
East Bay, I know East Bay likes it. Beth
Yeah.
has been very supportive of it, and I believe also the city is very positive about it, but that's where I hear from. So.
Like I said, I mean, we're hearing good, we're hearing bad, Most of the bad, to be honest with you, that we hear is from Garfield, right here. It's not so much the consumer, but the people within Garfield, and everything. But if we have to do a better job of educating and training and everything, then we need to pass that on, so. But right now, that is the system that was chosen to go with, and everything, so.
Steve, I got it. I have a question. I know you said something about the Record Eagle bad-mouthing you, but from what I read today, it was about the survey that was sent out.
I didn't even read today's, I'm just talking about some previous.
Well, there was an article in today's paper, and it was all regarding the survey that was sent out to Grand Traverse County residents.
I worked on projects all day until I came here, so
So
I
did
haven't
I.
looked at anything yet.
Yeah,
I
so
don't
that's, I mean,
research that.
I know you're saying something about the Record Eagle bad-mouthing you, but it was about a survey that was sent out by you to the residents of Grand Traverse County that weren't happy.
And actually, I didn't say the Record Eagle, I just said the local media.
Well,
Anyway, but yeah, so.
but yeah, I mean,
But
I
we're
think,
doing a lot of good things and everything.
no,
and
I'm just saying that, I think you need to clarify that it was about the survey.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I've not read the paper or anything today, so.
Yeah, it was about the survey that you sent out to the residents of Grand Traverse County that were not happy.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll take a look at that tonight when I
Yeah.
get home, but I've not looked at it yet. That's the first I heard about anything in the paper today, so.
Mm-hmm.
And with the builder part of it, with what we do, maybe you guys, the building department should have a list now of all their current builders. I mean, if you've applied for a license, or a permit, they've got you on file.
Yep.
Maybe they could do a email blast or something that says, if you need to log in to apply, this is what you do. Click here, click here, click here. If you need to go back in and log in and get things. I mean, once you're in there, it's really easy from my desk to do everything. And if my architect has sent me the PDF file, it's really easy to attach that. It's really easy to scan and attach the land use permit. So once you're in there, it's easy. It's trying to get into it and maneuver around it.
Okay,
So maybe they, like a user guide or something.
okay.
So
We'll
everybody
I'll pass
could
that
be,
on.
because if you're not doing it every day, it's cumbersome.
Yep, yeah, you have to relearn it if you're not using it every day, so.
Yeah, when you're over 60, it goes fast if you don't
Okay.
do it every day.
Okay, so there's more to it than just the program. But no, we'll, like I said, I appreciate the input because we'll pass that on and everything. And if we have to, especially the building department, needs to do better in educating or, like you said, handing out a tutorial, then that's what they'll have to do.
Might make it easier, so,
Yeah, awesome.
thank you.
Well, like always, my contact information is on the website, and I think most of you have it anyway and stuff. But if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
My name is Alan Lehman. I am your representative on the road commission. I haven't come to your meetings regularly. They told me, hey, Garfield's got their act together. You don't have to worry about them. There's some other townships might need a little bit more work. So, but I'll starting now, this month, probably going forward, I'll try to be here once a month. Mr. Syke was kind enough to help us with some strategic planning. I've met a couple of you before. I just have and I live in Garfield Township. I just have a couple things on my list tonight. One of them is the roadkill that we talked about, and you've already had our memo. Joe Underwood is here with me, the commission chairman, and we've got dueling agencies trying to tell us what to do, and one of them says, now you can pick them up, and the other one says, we might fine you if you don't dispose of them properly. And we don't have the lawyers from the County Road Association have suggested we do nothing until this is clarified. And nobody at the Road Commission really wants none of the management wants their employees who would end up being personally ticketed for this kind of stuff. So right now, we're not picking up any roadkill. I think it's a great service to the public. I'm not sure why the deer, which are under the purview of the DNR, aren't always the DNR's deer from cradle to grave. They have budget for it from Lansing, and they seem to abdicate it when they're dead. And the Road Commission spends a fair amount of money on it every year. Really, we should be fixing the roads and not spending our money on the deer. But we've done it as a service. I've talked to some other counties. They usually do it too. But the bureaucratic kind of bungle that's happened between the agencies, the Road Commission agencies and the DNR and Eagle, it's kind of coming to a standstill and a halt. I encourage you to write send a memo to your legislator, our legislator here, and try to get some direction from Lansing, get this over with. It's not something locally we can decide. The second thing is we have on our agenda for our meeting on Thursday, we're going to ask you, Garfield Township, for a ordinance for no parking that would cover the Keystone Road area. That we upgraded that roundabout where the soccer folks could get in there, and there's still a lot of parking along the road. It's dangerous. The law enforcement apparently can't ticket it unless it's an ordinance of the township, and so that we would like to get rid of the traffic hazard along Keystone. We've spent the money. The roundabouts are in. They've got two great entrances. We'd like them not to park along the road anymore, and we need your help. And I think that's all I have. Can take any questions. Chris?
Zimmerman Road, I've lived in Heritage Estates for like 20-some years, and I've noticed in the last month or so, and I don't know if people have called you or questioned, the traffic is just awful. And I leave every morning, and I'm only asking this because I see a lot of people who are complaining, and so I want to find answers for them. I kind of feel like it's the smart lights that have been put at Silver Lake and Zimmerman has allowed so much traffic to come northbound, and when they approach like North Long, that light seems to be allowing traffic to go east and west, like almost double. So I think it's just the timing of the lights is creating a lot of congestion, because sometimes you'll have traffic from North Long backed up all the way past Heritage Estates on the curves, and that was always highly unusual. But it's just kind of all of a sudden happened in the last month or so.
Okay, I'll certainly ask about the timing of the lights. We've spent a fair amount of money trying to upgrade the lights and the software with them. They're telling us they still have some problems where we don't have fiber, where they rely on a cell phone or something, some sort of repeater that goes off the poles. The coordination between the lights doesn't work. And that's something we're addressing. I guess we're going to pick up a radio system for some of these things. And so the lights are supposed to know where the backups are, and if they're not getting it, and I will bring up that particular stretch.
And what I've noticed is that Silver Lake and Zimmerman is, depending on if you're coming off of Zimmerman to Silver Lake and there's no traffic on Silver Lake Road, that you get the green. Whereas before you had to wait to the whole cycle. So the smart part of it is very convenient, but I think what it's sensing is you have all this traffic coming in the morning off of East Silver, and it's like 20 cars. And then once they hit North Long,
They
it
can't
just
get
back.
out.
And you've got people who want to turn west on the North Long, and that turn lane is so short that nobody can turn right and head east. It's just, I don't know, you have to go out there and see it.
Yeah. We are working on the airport road, and I think you were told about that. The manager told you that we're working on the airport road and Silver Lake intersection. That's going to be expanded, and that short turning queue, I guess we've got the easements now, and that short turning left to go on airport turning queue is going to go away. It's going to be a lot longer. I don't have the distance, but it's going to do that. And I certainly will mention that, because I've turned left there, like going to the high school and at North Long Lake Road, and the turning lane is short.
Yeah, it's so bad that I actually go, and it's not about me. I mean, I've heard this from all kinds of people, and I just wanted to, figure it out. But I actually go Silver Lake to saw the report in Cass now, I totally go a different direction to work because of how bad it's come, and a lot of people are doing that. So
Okay.
it's interesting.
I'll ask, and I'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks, 4 weeks and talk to you about it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one for you.
sure.
Sorry. Along the lines of Chris, my mom lives on the east side of town, and when she comes over, she comes down Hoke Road to Keystone. And since the roundabouts have been put in at River Road and Cass, there's a constant flow of cars with no break in them from the stoplight at Cass. And she said, it is dangerous and terrible to come out of here. Well, I took her tractor, picked it up the other day and took it home and came down there about 4:15. And the 3 cars in front of me, I thought we were gonna have accidents. They pulled out and I'm like, no, 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 it's not clear. And they did, and there was horns honking and everything. And then when I went to pull out, I had to have more time because I had a trailer behind me. It's terrible. We have created a really bad situation at Hoke to get off of
The
Hoke
River
onto
Road
Keystone.
intersection was so dangerous, that was their primary,
And I understand
primary focus
they're
there.
stopping collisions, but, ooh.
I could see a day, because I don't believe we'd ever put a light, Steve, in between the roundabouts there. I guess I can't speak. It seems unlikely we would put, after we've tried to move the traffic through the roundabouts. There could be a time when I would guess that Hoke Road could be right only coming down Hoke Road. That you'd have to go to the Cass Road go
And
right.
I almost thought about
Go to
doing
the
that.
Cass Road roundabout and then come back. It's much safer.
Turn around and head back. I thought about doing that, and I thought, no, I'll just wait here. 20 minutes later, I should have went to the right.
Well, the roundabouts are mitigating the backups at what used to be the lights, and they are functioning. I've driven through them in the morning and I've driven through them at night.
They were good.
I voted against them at the time because it was so much money, but I'm not opposed to the roundabouts because they do move traffic. People don't sit at the lights and get aggravated.
They move the traffic and they keep the intersections safe.
Yeah,
If there's an accident, it's gonna be a fender bender, not a major.
Right, it's gonna be a
impact.
slow-speed accident, not something that's
Yeah.
gonna be just another
Yeah.
awful incident.
I just thought I'd mention it.
Okay, I'll talk to the traffic people
I
about it.
questioned my mom and then I lived it, so
Yeah.
I believe
Tell her for sure to turn right.
Okay, I'll tell her.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have a supervisor's report with no supervisors, so I think we'll go past that. We have no unfinished business and new business. We have a presentation and public comment, consideration of drinking water revolving fund project plan and designation of an authorized project representative. Yep. I read that without my glasses. Jennifer?
Well, good evening, everyone. Jennifer Graham, Gordy Frazier. Well, I'm very excited for this tonight, so I get you guys all to myself to nerd out on water for a minute, so.
She's nerding out on it.
I know. No, we've been talking about just our water system projects and future planning for so long, so it's nice to have something come to fruition for a moment. So I guess to briefly backpedal a minute, what accompanied this PowerPoint was this project plan. Anybody read it?
No.
Thanks, Denise, for your
We
honest.
didn't get that big of a.
Oh, it was
There's
attached.
a lot of appendices in here, you know?
Oh, it was attached. There was like 400
I know.
pages.
I had to do it, I know, I heard. I had to do it by Dropbox link. And a lot of it is necessitated by Eagle that they require. So there's a lot of attachments. Probably the first, I think, 60 pages is of anything of use. I mean, it's all useful, but.
I read the first part of it, and then after that, I said no more.
I had to tease you guys. I didn't read it either, it's fine. I'm kidding. I wrote it. So getting into the background a minute again, and a lot of this is refresher, and it's really intended for the public, because this is intended to be a public collaboration process for everyone. So I hope, for those in the public today, thank you, and then your township residents would have access to this both on your website and part of your board packet. But just a quick synopsis. Being an owner and entity for a potable water system, there's a lot of mandates that we have to comply with, both with Michigan, with Eagle, Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, and also the EPA. And the 4 bulleted items here just kind of provide a quick snapshot of some of the things that I work with you guys on, I work with the DPW on, just to make sure that we continue to stay in compliance. There's a lot of monitoring, sampling, recording that has to be done. First and foremost, in the part that you guys usually hear, is on the water reliability side. And that's something that's done every 5 years. And it's a reiterative process. It's something that we go through. We evaluate your existing infrastructure, we look at your existing demands, your 5 and 20-year growth, and demonstrate that and evaluate whether that infrastructure is capable to accommodate the existing 5-year and 20-year growth. And so that's what's a big catalyst and driver to identify what our long-term capital improvement projects are. And so the last one we did, it's a reiterative process. And for you guys, because you have such a dynamic working system with a lot of moving parts, it's constantly ongoing with Eagle, back and forth, as far as updating, looking at your demands and capital improvements. So we've done one in 2010, 2015, and 2020. The next thing that typically works through the DPW themselves is asset management. And we've been very engaging with the DPW as far as inventorying your assets, helping them to get a grant at one point to collaborate with the other townships to go out and evaluate, physically boots on the ground, evaluate that infrastructure, help them get GPS equipment, popping manholes, picking up all the gate valves, you know, how many turns it takes, which ones don't have covers, you know, and inventorying that. And a lot of that data and GIS gets shared with your planning department, so they have access to real-time information on the water and sewer infrastructure both. Another thing that, and we're going to talk about it in June, is the DPW has been working with the townships on a rate study. And this is, again, another process just to make sure that you have the funds, and we'll talk about that later in the PowerPoint, the funds through your rate structure to afford your day-to-day fees, your capital improvement projects, and make sure that you guys are in a good financial position. So that rate study was actually completed, well, the asset management was completed and submitted to Eagle per their simple requirements in 2021. The rate study, like I said, we're going to talk about that. Dawn Lund with Financial Solutions is going to be in June. It'll be an agenda item to talk about your rate studies and get that wrapped up. Lead and copper rules is a new thing that's come through Eagle, much like PFAS. Anything else, there's always something, you know, a new emerging contaminant that we have to be aware of, sample for, and be cognizant of our system. You know, same thing with COVID. There's sampling on the wastewater side for COVID. But lead and copper rules is something that Eagle mandated in 2018. And so right now, the biggest impact we're seeing is we had to go through and do a preliminary inventory of all the service lines in all the townships. Obviously, Garfield has the largest one, to validate that we don't have any, which you guys do not, as far as any of the service lines that we have in our system that have been installed. Fortunately, our firm, and working with the DPW, we've done a lot of those witness reports when they were put in from the 70s on up, so have a great record of those. So that preliminary inventory was submitted to Eagle in 2020, and now what Eagle is mandating is they want a final inventory by 2025, and then if you do have lead service lines, which include replacement of the lines into the home, those all have to be completed over the next 20 years. I just bring it to your attention because it's really not relevant for you guys per se, but it does impose additional sampling costs for the DPW. And they are having to do more frequency and, again, costs on the operations side that they're incurring. And I already talked about rate study, so. And yeah, by all means, as you guys have questions, feel free to make this very open and candid. Just a quick synopsis of the water system. Snapshot today, we roughly have about 3,000 customers, which equates to about 10,000 REUs. And the distinction between the two, that's analogous to a single family home. So a restaurant, which may be one customer, because of how many seats they have, may be 15 REUs. And then now, and you guys can kind of see that in the image up in the up far right, we used to be 5 service districts, now we've merged and we're 4 service districts. And that a lot was as a result of the tank we put in on Cedar Run, and so water's now continuing to go to east to west and then to the north. We're no longer we abandoned infrastructure up in that northern western pocket that was coming from the Munson side. That's all been being served by that new Cedar Run tank. So we've that blue blob is our new service district now, so we have 4. So that was a great project that you guys invested in as a capital improvement to abandon a couple booster stations and PRVs that were, if anything, just aged infrastructure and costing more energy to operate. So now we're able to serve everybody by gravity storage tank. And basically, service districts mean that they don't, they operate independently with some potential for reliability connections, but meaning that we get water supplied through the city of Traverse City. That's where our water supply comes from, through master meters that are recorded. And we meter that flow. From those meters, there's a booster station that we utilize to some type of, typically a storage tank, and then potentially PRVs to distribute water through the system. So each service district is defined by the pump and operates usually under its own independent water pressures. They're not all one single service district where you've got a single tank or a single pump and everybody's experiencing similar water pressures. So for a supply, like I said, we have a bulk water agreement through the city. And so it's important on a monthly basis, the DPW and the city both read the meters and check in with each other just to validate that they're reading the same readings. As far as storage tanks are concerned, we have 3 right now. The below ground tank at McRae, which is 2.25 million, the 1 million gallon on Cedar Run, and then the 300,000 gallon that's over at Bermley is what we currently have in our system. And then we have 6 booster stations, 12 PRVs, which reduce pressure, because according to state requirements and building code, we can't serve homes over 80 PSI. So they knock that pressure down, and then we roughly have about 73 miles of water main.
Jennifer, the tank by Denise, that's a city tank, right? But does
Correct.
that pressurize us at all?
It does. It pressurizes what we call the city district. Very creative name. Yeah, that called it.
It works.
It works. So that operates under its own. So if going back, I think I can go back. That's that pink area.
Okay,
So that operates under the city water tank pressure, and that's who we get our supply and storage from.
okay. And then the tank in Chris's subdivision?
Yep, his tank is served by the new Cedar Run tank. So the tank that currently exists at Heritage is abandoned. And we're just able to generate quite a bit of revenue off radio towers right now and cell towers.
Oh, so that's a not used tank,
Correct,
but being
that's a
used
not-
for something different?
Yeah, and so we'll
Okay.
talk, yeah, and I actually, yes, have a purpose for it later in the report.
Ah.
No, great questions.
Okay.
So getting into demand, I mean, working with a lot of communities, what's very telltaling for this community, I mean, with COVID from 2019 to 2022, I mean, we were seeing a decrease in growth in a lot of areas where, you know, the lower right-hand corner, you guys can see Garfield has historically, we have not seen a decrease in customers. Actually, on average, we're anywhere from 1.5% to 2% growth, as far as water customers are concerned, is what I'm looking at. I mean, it's definitely more when we go past outside our water service district, but on average, that's what we're seeing. And so that's what we use for trending to project the next 5 and 20 years, is applying that same 2% growth, because that's historically what we're seeing. But currently, right now, I mean, every typical standard home is using about 200 gallons a day on average. Our max day demands are 4.8 million for a max day, which, you know, we're going to see in the summer when people are irrigating. So that's a lot of water that we're moving around. And then fire flows are, you know, pretty phenomenal for this area with a lot of the looping and 8-inch and 12-inch and larger main. We have anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000 GPM. So looking at capacity, and that's kind of where some of this comes from, and a lot of the capital improvements, again, fall back to the water studies that we do. So they're not just being pulled out of thin air. They're constant capital improvement projects that stay on a list and are prioritized. So capacity is one of the big indicators we evaluate our infrastructure, and capacity meaning if we were to take our largest pump offline and a booster station, can we meet our max day demands? That's a state requirement that we have to review. And we're looking, can we, you know, and it's concerning, it's especially concerning and immediate if we can't meet our existing demands. And then it's secondary concerning and need to start planning if we can't meet our 5-year. And then if we can't meet our 20-year, it's a projection. So it's on our radar, but it's not a high-level priority. So that's kind of how I rank it in my brain. So what we've looked at, and what identified the capital improvements in this report, among some other things, is we looked at our booster stations. Our primary booster station on Cass Road, which is Booster Station 1, and then our second largest booster station, which is on Silver Pines, that serves that whole west side, that's Station 3. Realistically, within 10 years, we need to start looking at increasing capacity of those stations. So that means it's not in this report, but we're going to keep monitoring it. And I just want to bring it to you guys' attention. That's part of our job, is to just make sure, because we obviously need those stations to have the capacity to meet max day demands in the event that we have a tank we have to take offline, we have a water main break, and just to make sure that we're continuing to provide quality water to our customers. So really right now in this report, as far as infrastructure is concerned, it's our water storage tanks that are nearing capacity. So meaning the McRae tank, which is 2.5 million gallons, we need to, in the next 0 to 5 years, put a water storage tank in. We're sending a lot of water to the west side of town. And for those of you that live over there and just looking at the flow data, it's very telltale, and that's where we're seeing a lot of the growth trends. I mean, I put in that Cedar Run water main, or we're putting in that Cedar Run water main, and we've had 4 or 5 different developers wanting to connect to that. That's a very preferred location right now we're seeing people trending to want to move to, is on the west side of town. The other location is Day Drive, which is over by Traditions, Bermley Estates area. We only have a 300,000 gallon tank there, and we're seeing some growth. And again, that's one where it's near or at capacity, and we need to look at providing some additional storage over on that side of town. Any questions? So as far as supply or storage is concerned, I mean, the biggest thing, we always have to add storage to meet our emergency fire suppression demands. And then anytime we have an area where we're serving over 150 customers, we have to have a storage tank, which is pretty much everywhere in Garfield Township. So 150 customers is a pretty small development when you scale it back. And so there's 2 different methods. We can have an elevated tank, which we know what that looks like, or we can do a ground tank. Where we have a ground tank and then we have a booster station with a fire pump and domestic pumps. Those are 2 different approved and considered alternatives to meet storage demands. And
Jennifer,
then,
when you say customers, is it people or is it houses? Because it says units.
so for 150, it's people.
It's physically 150 people.
It's not many, no.
Wow.
No, so that's why, I mean, a lot of communities are having to have storage tanks, some type of storage.
People, not homes. Okay.
Yep. And then, so we look at that. We look at our supply, and again, that goes back to our booster pumps and meeting our firm capacity with the largest well taken offline. And then distribution is another critical infrastructure we look at. We want to make sure that we eliminate any dead ends. Our service districts are all cross-connected to each other, so if we have a pump that fails, we can backfeed from another service district. We want to make sure that we're continuing to provide above 35 PSI to all our customers. That's how the distribution system's evaluated. And we do that through a reiterative hydraulic model process, through hydrant testing, and then plugging it into a hydraulic model to perform simulations under fire demands, max day demands, and that helps tell us where we need to put in water main extensions for reliability. So the purpose of this report and why it's been brought to your attention through EAGLE and the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund, and respectively on the clean water, which is sewer, they were the recipients of all the Infrastructure Job Act money. And it was the ARPA money, Bill 53 money, it all got funneled through the state. So with that being said, now it seemed like a very opportune time for, and a lot of people are making application to submit project plans to potentially have access to low interest loan and hopefully grants, because there's a portion of money for grants for communities and then low interest loans. And so the terms for what they're offering right now is over a 20 year, it's 1.875 for projects, and a 30 year, it's 2.25. And for you guys, for funding your projects, I mean, if, otherwise we would be looking at going to the open to bond, or utilizing what's in your water fund, which can deplete it pretty quickly. But, you know, most of you guys, if you go buy a car, we know what current interest rates are through the bank right now. They're not anywhere near as favorable as these terms. So it's a very unique opportunity that has been made available to all municipalities to make application to the state. And so that's a big reason why we're here today. And so what they require to go through those steps and processes, the first one in this large report is you have to provide a description and a need for your project. And a lot of that's pulled from the water reliability studies we've done in the past. Alternatives, because to best serve a community, and you know, as your consultant, we want to present the need for the project, but also fully vet all viable alternatives that are available, present pros and cons. And those have to be included in the report, including project construction costs, viable project financing and what impact that has onto your user rates, and then what potential social and environmental impacts it may have and what mitigation measures you would do to offset those. So that's really, in this huge report, the nuts and bolts of it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was just thinking with the rate study, do they take into consideration if we're awarded this
She does.
or not?
She
Would that
does.
change what the rates are gonna be?
She does and she doesn't. So I've been working with Dawn. The timing's been actually quite convenient because I've been working with her knowing these capital improvements, and now that I've pulled together the costs, I've shared those with her. So she's plugging in what those costs are, anticipating a 20-year loan at 1.875.
Okay.
She's not factoring in grant, because there is potential for grant, but again, all the stars have to align, and there's certain buckets for grants through this process, some being specific for lead service line, which is not relevant for you guys. Other ones are your, your household income, whether how the state considers overburdened, which you guys aren't that either, but you do have a lot of capital improvement projects that are very much, they meet to remain compliant with 10 state standards and supported by your Eagle District Engineer, because I've sent this all to him. So that definitely helps.
Because I'm assuming that the rates that we're gonna be potentially doing are gonna cover the cost.
Yep, they're
of
rolled.
repaying
Yeah.
this, but also these projects probably need to be done regardless of if we get
do.
awarded this or
Yeah.
not, so, okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how much of an impact it had
Yep.
on that or not, but.
Nope, that's factored in. Yep, Dawn has gone through that, and she'll be here in June to talk about that too, and you'll see where she plugged it right in.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question.
Yep.
The Heritage Estates tank, you had mentioned that it's not being used and it's more for just cell towers. What is the future plan for that? Just
So I have it in here, and actually we're just diving right in. So as far as going back, because like I said, I have a huge priority list because of the size of your system and all the infrastructure. We're starting to get to the point where some of it's getting aged and deteriorated. As you guys know, we've had projects to replace things, but we've also, with the growth that we're seeing, we've got some shortfalls with storage, we've got some dead ends that need some looping. So we've kind of, you guys aren't old, but you're not new, if that makes sense. So we're kind of at this awkward age, so I've had to go through and, I mean, the price tag you're gonna ultimately see is a lot, but there's still a lot more that are lesser on the priority because we can continue to function how we're functioning, and we're potentially, 10 years out. So with that being said, I've kind of broke it up into the 4 districts as far as the improvements that, for my engineering evaluations and obviously knowing your system as well as I do, the priority projects we want to submit to Eagle right now. So the first one in Day Drive District, which is the one over by Traditions and encompasses, Day Drive is over by McCrae Tank, and that serves all of the 31 corridor. So we need to expand the McCrae Tank. We need to, I have upgrades to increase capacity of boost station 1 and 3 just as a placeholder, but it's actually not, that's more for me. It's not actually submitted to Eagle for a project here, but it is something that we need to continue to monitor. But also connection to the Horizon Outlet Creekside, which will provide reliability and redundancy between the US 31 corridor and where the West Side Service District is. Now, on the west side, which is, I know, is it easier if I pull it up, go back to the other map?
Colored one?
Yeah. So Day Drive is orange. So that's the one I'm talking about right now. So that water main loop is going to provide backfeeding between the blue and the orange, which we currently don't have. So if we have to take a cell out at McRae, we right now don't have a great means to continue to provide supply water to that community. Or if we have a substantial main break that's coming from a booster station, we don't have a backup water supply. For me, it's very concerning, because it serves such a primary corridor. So those are those two upgrades. On the west side, which is the blue, we've got PRV replacements, which you guys know we've put out for bid before, and they came out astronomically expensive. So they're still on there. The DPW bugs me incessantly about them because they're not safe for them to get into right now, just because they constantly flood. And they did have a break at the Stone Ridge one, which necessitated a complete water loss for that development because we didn't have a water main redundancy connection to that area. So that's that connection we see from Panorama. That'll provide that redundant connection to them. So if we have to take that PRV offline again, because valves fail, they get stuck, they get dirt in them, we'll be able to backfeed them. So that's, and then the final piece, which you guys know with the Cedar Run tank going in, Cedar Run water main going in, we're fully expanding that service area. And so the booster station that's at the school needs to be relocated to the base of the tank and upsized to provide better fire flows and pressures for Black Bear Farms and a lot of the other developments in Long Lake, and that's been on our list forever too. So as far as Bermley District's concerned, that's the yellow, and that's where we only currently have a 300,000 gallon tank. So what I've got set up for my plan, and that's to answer your question, Chris, as far as to temporarily, it's temporary, but to relocate Heritage Tank to provide them extra storage on that side of town. That's a 300,000 gallon standpipe. But ultimately, we have access for long-term vision. There was a 30-inch water main that was put in when the Keystone Road project was done, and it's currently stubbed off, is to ultimately extend it when they put a road in, east-west corridor. Somehow, send that to the other side, get that to the other side of town over to McRae Tank, so that'll provide water back and forth, pressure-wise, because the elevations line up pretty conveniently. So that McRae Tank, once we have that connection, will provide the pressures to Bermley Tank without another storage tank. Because building a new storage tank is $2.5 million probably, right there, just for a tank. A steel tank, I know.
Are we talking like the one we did at Cedar Run?
No, we would have to put a big elevated tank in. Bermley's a short one, like Blair has, a large elevated tank. They're very, very costly. So if we can repurpose and use the storage we have available, which is right now would be the Cedar Run tank when we make it bigger and add another cell, we extend that 30-inch pipe, we'll have the pressure to feed back to Bermley, and we won't have to add another storage tank, and can accommodate a lot of growth on that side of town.
Yep. The McRae one where you mentioned about adding another cell, is it going to be, there's probably no way there to do an above ground.
No, it will be just like what's there now.
Overflow that lower one, right?
Yep. Yep.
So it's just going to be another in-ground cell.
It's below ground, yeah.
And
Prefab
we have the
tank.
land there for it?
We do. Yep. It was set up for a second cell. And it's been on our capital improvement list for 10 years.
So that's a one cell there right now?
Currently,
So the
yeah.
second cell is going to be another 2-point-some million?
Correct.
So it's going to be
Yep.
4.4 million there then?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that tank, if you think about it, it serves half your township because it provides storage to the orange and to the blue.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So it's serving a large customer base, probably, 2,500 RUs, which is a lot. And then overall system reliability, and again, the water study, tank inspections, those are just on my list as normal things we do every 5 years. But the other thing that's been important and wanting to push is at our master meters to implement SCADA. Right now, they're manually read by DPW and city, and it's important to have real-time metering and flow data access to those because we do have a bulk water agreement with the city. So if we have SCADA and accurate means to measure, and there's no dispute, because it's a contract we have with the city, and it would be nice to have access to that at any given instant. So I've included that on there just for another means of reliability and redundancy for your water system. You guys still with me? I know. It's exciting to me, I'm sorry. Okay, so as far as supply is concerned, this just shows you a screenshot of a typical meter detail. They're concrete mag meter that's below ground. And so these are what we have for our large customers that we meter, and then, with the 5 master meters we have with the city of Traverse City. And so that just kind of, right now, we're only able, because they're read daily, we're only able to capsulate and obtain max average day data, where it would be very important to, and then a multiplier that's estimated is used to determine what max day flow is. And that's what we get billed for the city. So again, it just kind of, in my mind, reinforces the need for SCADA. If we have true actual max day flow data, then there's no dispute, because right now there's a multiplier, and it's, in my opinion, it could be 5-10% accurate at times. We could be off when we're getting billed from the city of Traverse City for our actual usage.
And
So,
SCADA, is that a system to read it digitally at any time?
yeah. So the DPW has SCADA, whether it's cellular or radio, and a lot like, the smart signalization, anything like that, it's transmitting real time, whatever outputs you program. And so these meters have inputs and outputs where they totalize or tell you instantaneous flow in GPM or gallons per day. The DPW would have access to that.
Does that SCADA indicate if there's ever a rupture and a blow?
You can set it up for those, yes. If
Okay.
you've got a meter failure, if you've got a flooding condition, yeah, it's whatever you can, it's pretty limitless what you can do.
Wow.
And we don't have it right now. So, and again, that's another capital improvement project that's been in our water study for the last 10 years. And the tanks, this is just, showing some images of our 3 tanks we have. The one on the right is the heritage tank that we're looking to relocate to Bermley. It needs some love and to be painted a little bit and relocated, but it's in great condition, and at this point, like I said, it's empty, and it's just generating some revenue for cell tower. So it, in my opinion, provides a great candidate to be relocated to meet our immediate storage needs until we continue to work with other agencies on extending that 30-inch water main. And then the picture on the left just shows kind of McCrae tank. I mean, it's below ground, so there's grass over it. Those are the vents, and then that image just shows you some of the piping on the inside, but we'll duplicate and add another cell. And the nice thing with that now is having a second cell allows us the ability to take another cell out of service if we have to do any upgrades to it. Right now, if we have to take that tank offline for anything, we don't have water. So having a second cell gives us that backup also. So it's both needed for storage and for redundancy and reliability in our system. And of course, you guys know the Cedar Run tank, so.
What's the life expectancy of the McCrae tank in ground?
100 years.
Oh,
I mean, we
okay.
just had, it was put in before me in 2002, and we just had an inspection done on it last year. And the concrete's in great condition because there's a coating in it too. And very minimal repairs. The Eagle wanted to see some screens put in the vents. I mean, nothing of any significance. So that's why it's important every 5 years. They send a ROV little boat in there and, tool around and look at it and look at the columns, and no spalling. I mean, it's in great condition. So,
Good.
yeah, for what we see, 100 years plus. So the other thing, we've talked about supply and storage, and supply being the SCADA meters, the storage being the tanks. Now, the other biggest thing that we're advocating for is the reliability of extensions and redundancy of the service districts for some water main extensions. We've got targeted near Panorama, Horizon Outlet, Grand Traverse Crossing, and Veterans Drive. And those, again, are just to have secondary connections to those different service districts so that if we have to take infrastructure offline, they've got a backfeed and getting water from another source. And then the last two you guys are very familiar with is the McRae PRV and the Stone Ridge PRV replacement. And just needed because it's getting old infrastructure. And so this map just kind of illustrates in blue and red the different locations of where those upgrades are at. The need for the project, no, and I know you guys are, great stewards and advocates to continue to maintain your infrastructure. I don't probably need to go through this because you guys have my same sentiments as far as your goal and objective, continue to provide quantity water to your residents and maintain your infrastructure and your assets. And so that's, kind of the nuts and bolts of that. I mean, realistically, as far as any potential environmental impacts, we're talking about properties that are either under your own ownership and control on your township land or public right-of-way. So none of these projects are in environmentally sensitive areas, wetlands, anything that would, from any of our research, that historic preservation, anything like that. So realistically, with all three of these as part of the synopsis for this report, and we are required to do, and I try to typically do for you guys with any of your projects, is vet out viable alternatives and basically a go, no go. And realistically, for on the supply side related to SCADA, our option is to do it or not do it. There's not much we can do to optimize our existing infrastructure because it's functional and we're using it. We just don't have real-time monitoring of it. And so, and then obviously no action, just like anything else, like your car, and your brakes are squeaking and you don't replace them and you continue to not do anything, eventually your car won't stop. So, these assets are very analogous to a vehicle. So no action ultimately is going to cost more in the long run to not do anything. But for the SCADA upgrades to be implemented for what we're advocating are roughly $160,000 to do that work. Same thing on the storage side. We install storage or we don't. Ultimately what's going to happen, again, the no action, we're going to not have adequate storage. So at some point when we've got a fire situation and we've got a water main break or everybody's irrigating, our pumps can't keep up when we can't provide the water supply and pressures to our customers. That's what's going to happen. That's what storage provides, is that buffer to ensure that you can meet your max day demands, meet emergency needs and storage. So we'll end up getting a violation from EGLE, is what happens. If you can't demonstrate that you have adequate storage in your system to meet those criteria, they're going to impose deficiencies on your system because they come in every year and do sanitary surveys and review the feasibility studies we do and review the work that DPW is doing, and you'll end up getting back basically a deficiency letter from EGLE that they'll want to have you address those items. So, and that's something that we've never been in that position, and I don't ever want us to be in that position. You guys have always continued to provide excellent customer service and maintain your assets. And we want to continue providing that high level of service to our clients. So the costs associated, I know it's going to hurt. It's roughly $14 million. And a lot of it with McRae, obviously relocating Heritage Tank doesn't have that huge cost burden, but building McRae Tank in 2002 looked a lot different than what it looks like in 2023 from a cost perspective. We've got excavation work, concrete work. And so when we pulled these cost estimates together, I researched with Elmer's, different contractors, different suppliers to get current pricing, looked at comparable projects I've worked on in bidding environment. And we've built in pretty substantial contingencies into this because these are projects realistically with funding, if it all goes through, are a year and a half, 2 years out yet. And the way the market is, it's very unpredictable. So we've got 25%, 30% contingencies built into these prices, anticipating we'll get enough loaned, hopefully grant money to cover and not have a shortfall.
Jennifer, is it cheaper to put the tank in the ground at McCray, or is it cheaper to put a tank on the 1 acre of property on Meadow Lanes Drive that we have?
We don't,
How expensive is, I mean, you've got three things bunched together here at 14 million, but I mean,
Right.
is it cheaper to do a tank on our 1 acre than it is to put this backup tank on the top of McCray?
well, it would change our operations and how the existing pumps function, because we'd have to reroute it, and it would require a lot of water main extension. That was an alternative reviewed when we did the water study a few years ago, and it would have a lot of impact operationally on the system. That would impose a lot more cost, because we'd have to put another separate booster station out there. We have quite a bit of transmission line we'd have to install, plus a tank. So realistically, yes, that would be a lot more money.
Okay,
than
I
doing a
just was
McCray.
throwing it out there,
Yeah.
because I didn't know what this tank cost
Right,
is.
and that's why, you know, in this report, there's a caveat. There are always other options, but they're not financially viable because they're gonna have such impact on operations and costs that I didn't even look at them.
Okay.
And that was one I know I looked at when we did the feasibility study in 2015, potentially because we did have that property. But we also have this property here too, and it just matches up and works seamlessly.
Okay. In the booster station thing listed here, that's the one at the base of McCray, right?
Yeah,
That's got to get bigger?
excuse me, that's the one at Cedar Run Tank. Yep. That's the booster station at the school.
Oh,
That's
okay.
getting relocated to accommodate Black Bear and that whole service area, because
Okay.
it's growing so much. That's that booster station.
Okay.
So probably the only new projects for you guys that we haven't talked about in full extent right now would be some of the water main redundancy connections. I haven't focused on because they're always there and needed. SCADA hasn't been one on the forefront, but it's always there and needed. And then the addition of McCray Cell Tank is another one that's always been there, but you know, we've had other projects we've had to discuss as we've had growth in different pockets and had to be reactionary to those. And again, this is, you know, with this funding source opportunity, this is where we want to put all of these projects in this basket, because if we can get financing at 1.875 or 2.25, it's a great opportunity for you guys to do that and get a lot of things off the checklist. And then those yes, like I said, the water main extensions, again, we do them or we don't. Is the system gonna fail? No. But being good owners of a water system, we want to ensure our customers don't have water service disruption. And we did experience it with Stone Ridge. We didn't have that redundancy connection, and there was roughly 200 water customers in there when we worked on that PRV that didn't have access to water. And so these costs, which are right around just under $5 million, would provide 5 critical connections and avoid those for you guys. So there's a quick synopsis as far as the rate structure is concerned, and just provide some overview of what your water customer bill is intended to encompass. It covers your O&M costs. It covers short-lived assets, things that have a value of less than 25 years, flow meters, water meters, things like that. It covers any outstanding debt that the township may have incurred, any vehicle loans. It's obviously covering the county DPW to operate, maintain your system, and it's intended to cover your capital improvement projects, which are the ones that we've kind of gone through and talked about. So we have talked about the cost quickly and the financing. And the biggest piece we worked looking at your rates, and Dawn Lund, who'll be in here next month, is what impact, if we were to finance all these projects right now, what impact would that have on your user rates? And realistically, your current monthly bill, you guys are charging, a typical house is about $11.50. And so if we were looking to finance the 19 million, and that's just at 20-year, assuming that's what we would get, is realistically, she was advocating for about $4.10 increase a month to your customers. And Personally, you know, and we don't want to ever compare ourselves to other communities, but if we were to look at what the city charges, some of the other surrounding townships, you guys are very, very affordable. And I think the biggest thing I want to emphasize with this and going through this report is we are putting in this project plan, but we are by no means committing to do all or any of these projects. This is a process to go through for Eagle to review and decipher and evaluate how we score on the rubric system for eligibility for loan and possibly for grant. But we're not committing ourselves to anything at this point. This is just, if we were to finance all these projects, this is the impact we potentially be looking at to our customer user rates. And so when we get to the end of this, what I'm looking for is you unanimously, or majority as a board, are in support of these projects and potentially what impact it could have on the user rates. But we aren't committing to anything. We're just putting in a project plan for Eagle to consider. Now, as your engineer, I'm going to continue to advocate to do all these projects. And if the financing doesn't pan out how we want, we go back, I reassess the priorities, and we work on the projects as we can afford them. You know, right now, you know, because I could go back, this can wait, and this one's more of a priority. You know, so there are ones that rank differently from each other. But for a snapshot of what we want to do for the next 5 years, seeing the growth that potentially we're looking at, these are the projects that I'm advocating for. And because, again, we have a great financing opportunity with the state to construct these projects and move ahead with them.
Jennifer, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a well, so I have no idea what this is in as far as cost goes. So you're saying $11.50. Now, is that just the base rate and then
yeah.
whatever is above and beyond
Yeah,
that?
that's a base rate. Typically,
So the base rate would go up to $15.60,
correct.
and then whatever amount
Yeah.
that you use.
Yeah,
Okay.
because you
all right.
guys charge by the cubic feet, 748 cubic feet. Most, looking at your standard, you know, family of 3, they're averaging about $26 a month for a water bill,
Oh, okay.
which again is still very, you know, very affordable in the grand scheme of things. And then you compound that with hydrants and impact that may have on your homeowners with ISO ratings. I mean, it's definitely, I have a well too, and I would prefer to be fronted by municipal main. If I had a fire or access to water during a power outage, you know, I got to pour water in my toilet bowl, you know.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I
Fill up
mean,
the buckets
Denise.
and put them in the bathtub, yep.
I mean, there's a lot of things. And you guys have the luxury, it's surface water, so we don't struggle with the hardness. You know, things, there's just a lot of good, I'm a big advocate for it, and I know you guys are too. So this just provides a final breakdown of total costs, and that's kind of what Dawn took a look at when she did your rate study, and again, looking at potentially this is the impact on your user rates. Now, realistically, she's going to come in, whether we do these projects or not, and I can say this, that she's going to be advocating for some type of user rate increase anyway, because we do have to start planning for some capital improvement projects. They're not going to go away. And we've been plucking them off one by one, but, you know, the PRVs that we put out for bid, they're continuing to sit there and they work, but at some point they're not going to work. And prices, as we're seeing, they're continuing to compound. They're going up. Access to contractors and labor, yada, yada. I mean, they're always there. And so she's going to be advocating, and same with me, is to look at raising your rates to afford those capital improvement projects, whatever they look like. And we work through and decide to do. And then the last part of this, couple parts of these slides is talking about impacts. We touched on it a brief minute. As you know, construction impacts are temporary. Operational impacts are temporary. Probably the biggest social impact is customer user rates. Environment impact, like I said, most of the properties either in public right-of-way or township controlled. And majority of these, I mean, operational or socially, it's through public engagements that we can help educate people as to why our rates are going up. You know, the other piece is DPWs. Everybody's paying their staff more. Obviously, you guys know we're paying more for lead service line sampling. You know, so there's a lot of inherent costs with your system that are going up too. And costs, just like our utility bills, any utility bill, electric, they all are going up, and they're passing those costs on.
I have a question. I don't know if it's for Lainey or Chloe, or when was the last time we ever increased rates?
Chuck would know, it was a long time ago.
It was before me,
Long time.
Okay,
and I've been here working with you guys for almost 19 years.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So it won't be a shock when
No.
somebody gets an increase.
So it's been $11.50 for a long
Yeah.
time.
So that's a great question, Denise.
Okay.
You guys have, yes.
I was just wondering, because I don't remember ever since I've been on the board talking about a water increase, fee, so.
Yeah, hasn't been done in a long time.
I built my house in '99, I don't think it's gone up since.
Well, I don't have water, so I don't, I would know if I had it to see if it was increased, because we've been up there for 26 years or something.
Has the what, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as the treasurer, Jean and I have thought we should raise the water rates for a long time. So, not that we wanna raise rates, but we have a lot of water projects. We have a ton of
Absolutely.
sewer money, we have a lot of sewer income, but water, we really need to raise our rates to keep
Absolutely.
up with our projects. So
Absolutely.
I just think it's really needed.
It is needed, definitely.
So the base rate is going up $4.10. You said that we bill on a cubic,
Cubic foot basis, yeah.
has that gone up?
I don't think that's going up. I think that 748 is going to remain the same. It's just the rate itself, and then the overage. And Dawn will speak to that more. I'm just here preparing you guys and getting you excited for,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
because it's coming.
No, I agree, we need to talk about
Yeah.
raising rates, definitely.
In this system you're talking about, I asked you about it, that monitors it through like Bluetooth or whatever.
Sure.
Are our meters automatically uploading, or do we have to
They-
physically go there and read them?
Nope, they're remote reads.
Okay.
The DPW drives by, and then they do monthly random checks, just to make sure that they're accurate. So the household meters are already equipped, correct?
Okay.
Yeah,
Similar to DTE, Cherry Lane,
correct.
all of them?
Absolutely, yep.
And they're driving by too to get that you gotta be within a certain distance
You
of
do.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's all GPS based, I know, so they'll do drive-bys.
And then I got a weird one, and I don't know, maybe John might have this answer. What's the percentage of our residents that are on public versus private water? Does anybody know that?
Jennifer probably knows it.
I want to say it's like 45%
Are on public?
are on public water. Yeah, the last number I looked at,
So 45 public, you think, and 55 would still be private wells?
yeah.
Okay. We're about ready to teeter at the 50-50
Yeah,
probably.
because that's something we touched on as far as looking at your ordinance with all this infrastructure extensions. Updating the ordinance to mandate, very similar to the sewer, when you are new construction or your well fail, to have them connect to your water system, because it's there, you guys are making that investment, because it's mandated on the sewer side, and just at least follow that same rules and guidelines on the water is, I feel, a very smart move to do at some point.
And are people on public water allowed to still keep their well
They
for
are,
doing
for
their
irrigation,
yards?
correct, for
Okay.
irrigation, yep.
But not for household?
No,
I mean, there's a
Well-
point when you must hook up, right?
no, that's what I'm saying. Right now, you're not mandated to connect to water.
Oh,
They're not mandated.
but if you did, you can still keep your private well for pond irrigation,
Yep,
whatever.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And we would still, I feel that still seems prudent and applicable to do that, is allow them to keep it for irrigation, if we impose a connection mandate. I think that seems fair.
Okay. All good stuff. Any-
And then for the for the application, this is just the last piece, and, because even I get tired of talking sometimes. It's not surprising.
Even though you're nerding
Well,
out.
maybe. So as far as the application timeline, the stars represent what we've done thus far. Back in November, we submitted our notice of intent, which was just a letter saying, yeah, we want to apply. This is kind of, we're, $30 million, we don't know. But just putting that ask in. And then we held a pre-application meeting with Eagle, just to make sure all of the projects that we were submitting, they were advocates and made sense and agreeable to, which they absolutely were. Because these do hit a lot of the check marks as far as compliance with the state, making sure our capacity meets it. They definitely advocate for eliminating dead ends, promoting looping, reliability in systems. communication as far as SCADA, so they were huge advocates for that. And then the other piece, that's what this project is this has to be submitted by June 1st to the state for their blessing, is what we're looking for. And so the reason why I did the PowerPoint was twofold, because one, it helped as hopefully a simple visual and representative to you guys that didn't read the report.
Oops.
But it also acts as your meeting minutes for tonight. So I can submit that, and Eagle counts this as meeting minutes and your advertisement that you made attempts and intent to engage the public, to get any feedback, and to, if there is any public feedback, include that with the project plan, which I guess a question for you, Lainey, or any of you guys, did you guys get any comments from the public? Anybody email, ask for the report?
No.
So that makes it easy, right. So they'll want all that submitted to them along with this, and then hopefully, after you guys have had time to deliberate and discuss tonight, if you are acceptable with a plan that we've outlined, an application, that you would approve the resolution tonight, that I would include that with this project plan as a formal acceptance, that you want to make application. Doesn't, again, commit you to anything, but you agree with these projects and want to make application to the state for feasible funding source. Now, once the funding comes back, because they're supposed to let us know in early summer as far as the terms of where we rank, because there's a rubric that they look at for scoring. And right now, I've done it for you guys, and right now, out of 100 points, we're right around 80, which is pretty good, considering that we're not considered overburdened. We don't have lead service lines, but we have a lot of other boxes that we're able to check. So we're scoring about 80%. So we'll see how we compare to all the other applicants and where we fall in the fundable range. And then the next step, if we are fundable, then we can go through and vet this more and decide, do we want to do all these? Because again, we don't have to do all these projects. My job is to make sure you guys do what you feel for your community is affordable and effective. And so I just want to make that clear, is that we're not committing ourselves to anything still.
So what I understand, this resolution, and I've read it over like 3 or 4 times, it's basically we're strategically putting out a plan and moving it down the road with not a true commitment that we are gonna do all of this, probably do some of this. And it also is authorizing you, Gordy Frazier, as the project representatives of the plan.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I think it designates a person at the bottom who's, I think it's probably Lainey, that's the signatory. Is it?
Chuck.
Chuck.
Okay.
Township.
And you guys can decide if you want to change that.
No, usually Chuck will sign
Okay.
this.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions for Jennifer on this?
Do we have to have a public comment on it? There's no.
It says public comment to be considered, but it's not a public hearing.
It's not a
so I
public
don't
hearing,
know.
so what I would encourage you to do is, our public.
Mr. Joe
If you want to
Underwood,
invite anyone
would
to
you
the
like
public to speak on
make
the
a
matter.
comment?
Okay.
So then so we just identify there's no public comment.
No
so
public
that makes my
comment,
job
okay.
easier, so thank you.
So I guess we need a motion and a support for this resolution.
Make a motion?
Chris?
Make a motion that we adopt resolution 2023-15-T, adopting a final project planning document for water system improvements and designated and authorized project representative. That would be the Township Supervisor, Chuck Horn.
I support it.
Okay, any discussion further on this? Yeah. Your motion, the authorized,
At the bottom.
the signature is Chuck, but the authorized project representatives is Gordy Frazier.
Well, at the bottom it says designated as the authorized representative.
Yeah, you have it correct, Chris.
Yes, Chuck Horn.
It-
Yeah.
So it is Chuck, okay,
Yeah.
doing it, okay.
We're
All
your
right.
representative, but he's
He's
the
the ultimate.
authorized signatory, correct.
Roll call vote, please.
Barsha?
Yes.
Schmuckel?
Yes.
McCumber?
Yes.
Augustinelli?
Yes.
McManus?
Yes.
Stool?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you guys so much, I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
And
To me, it's interesting, so
I
you get
know.
into it, I
Well,
think
it-
it's interesting.
This is my pleasure to do this, I enjoy it, especially you guys, so. don't
It's
tell
a
me how to have fun.
monster to keep track of
Yeah,
all that.
I know, it's fun. It is fun, so I'm not gonna lie. You know, something breaks, oh crap, we gotta figure out what valves we can open and close to backfeed, and it is kind of fun sometimes, so. Anyway, thank you guys. I
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Jennifer.
Jennifer.
All right, that takes care of new business. Public comment, we'll open the floor. I don't see anybody running, so we're gonna close public comment. Any other business? No other business? Take them.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
We are adjourned.